Well, hey folks, you have tuned in to Pacific Ocean Asia. I've thought long and hard about this subject. It's one that's close to my heart. The lightning rod. Deshaya Coleman. Years ago, when she did a video response to some of the content that I had discussed on my channel, some of the things I had posted on other social media at that time, said, I don't know what it is about this guy, but Pacific is a lightning rod. Somebody else said, you attract this stuff. Some have said, you bring this out in people. All my life, I always wondered about a lot of things, but I always thought, what is it that makes me different? And believe me, I've had it hammered into my head by oftentimes people who project, people who can't take a look at themselves, and it's taken me many years to finally say, hold it. Do they have a valid point? Or is this an indirect way of slamming somebody who doesn't fit their mold, who doesn't follow the crowd? Before you think that this video is going to be a Christian sermon, complete with Bible waving and quotations from it, no. I am going to mention something from the Bible because it's fitting. As I mention this, sound-minded people will understand the illustration I'm drawing. I am not saying I'm Jesus. I am not saying I am like him. But I'm drawing an illustration. The Bible teaches, Jesus openly stated, he was, is, and always will be God. That being said, he came into the world. The Bible quotes about him and says he came unto his own, and his own received him not. His own meaning the Jewish people. And specifically, the religious leaders. Now, there were people in the temple grounds, the money changers. They were telling people, well, you can buy this lamb. We'll take your money. And they were doing sleight of hand. They were profiting from this. Something that God was definitely not for. In the Gospel of Mark, chapter 11, beginning with verse 15, and they came to Jerusalem, and he, Jesus, entered the temple and began to cast out those who were buying and selling in the temple, and overturned the tables of the money changers and the seats of those who were selling doves. And he would not permit anyone to carry goods through the temple. And he began to teach and say to them, is it not written, my house shall be called a house of prayer for all the nations? But you have made it a robber's den. And the chief priests and the scribes heard this. These are the religious leaders. And the chief priests and the scribes heard this and began seeking how to destroy him. For they were afraid of him, for all the multitude was astonished at his teaching. We're going to stop the little Bible sermonette right there. the point that I'm trying to make is the establishment. The religious establishment did not recognize that right in their midst was the living God incarnate, Emmanuel, God with us. People had a real problem with what they thought was, who is this buckstart walking in here turning over tables and telling people you can't do this? And then has the gall to say, how dare you turn my Father's house into a den of thieves? Thus, Pacific has launched an extremely apropos subject for tonight's video. I am going to talk about a subject that many of you and many out there in the world need to hear that won't hear this. They don't know who Pacific is and will not even find a way to get here unless God draws them or people tell them or connections are made somehow. If you do not follow the crowd status quo, I'm not talking about weirdos. I'm not talking about people I knew that when the New Age movement hit Sedona, Arizona, they sold everything, moved to Sedona, bought a bunch of crystals, went on top of the mesas and the buttes, and decided to channel extraterrestrial spirits. Those are weirdos. That's a cult. We could talk about many aspects of cults and strangeness, but we're not going to get into that tonight. We're going to talk about a modern American problem that's been going on for decades. White person. The expectations on you in America were as follows, especially if you grew up in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and even before. But the 40s, 50s, 60s, you go to school, you get good grades, you obey your teacher, you go to college, you buy a house, you marry a wife, you have a baby, and you have the same discussions that everybody else has. You have Christmas together, you have Thanksgiving together, you all come to the table together. Sounds Norman Rockwellian, doesn't it? Yes and no. What do you do for the one? But though he wants to be successful or she wants to be successful, doesn't go about it the same way you do, and they redefine success totally different than you do. One thing I've had to learn, opinions are like butts. Everyone has one, and oftentimes they smell. But what do you do when you have in America approximately 370 million Americans? And the truth be told, every single one of us is radically different than everybody else. I mean, we may have some common interests that align us together. You know, a couple guys, bought some 57 Chevys and they're going to work on them together and they got a common bond. What do you do with the guy who thinks cars and trucks and a little bit of everything's cool, but he's not a fan club? What do you do with a guy that grows up in a middle-class family but doesn't go the way they think he ought to go? What do you do with big name ministries and preachers that have said, well, the Bible says, train your child in the way he ought to go, and when he's old, he'll not depart for it. If you tell your child about the Lord, he'll always come back. Then I did a study on that. Then I sat under some good teaching, and they said, no, that train a child in the way he ought to go talks about his bent. If that kid is into astronomy, you better not force him to become a basket weaver or part of the quilting bee, Mom. A lot of misinformation, sincere, but a lot of misinformation has been communicated, causing some big problems with children growing up in life. People tell me all the time, Pacific, you missed your calling, driving trucks and buses. No, I didn't. When I was a kid, I loved trucks. I couldn't get enough Tonkas. I was like a dog in the backseat of the car, semi-truck go by, Peterbilt, and I'm just like drool coming out of my mouth. And as I aged and got older, I loved ships and the ocean and girls and music and lots of things. What do you do when you grow up in life and you watch Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and the old song, they never let poor Rudolph join in any reindeer games. What do you do when people were nice enough to invite you to their reindeer games and you politely, you weren't stubbing, but you just said, you know what, thank you, but no thanks. You weren't obnoxious. You weren't rude. You didn't say, ooh, I don't do those things. You just politely said, no thanks, I can't. Human tendency. And I'm talking from a Western culture perspective. How many of you men had dads that just were so into football and sports and kept pushing you that way and you just knew, I am not sports bound. When I was a kid, football was a foreign language to me. You're talking a hyperactive, high-energy kid who loved trucks. And I watched my dad plant himself in front of the TV, beer and chips, cigarette, ashtray. He was happy as a clam to do that all day long. And I watched briefly a bunch of people, whistles blown, stops, talk about it for 5 minutes. And as a kid, I'm like, what are they doing? Now that I'm older, I can sit down if the Broncos are doing well. It's like, all right, I'll watch the game. Now I understand a little more how the ball game's played and get the calls and the drill and that. But if football passed in the American landscaping, it wouldn't bother or affect me. I love pickup trucks. I do. I do. I forgot to stir my honey at the bottom of the pot. Peppermint tea. I don't know if I shared this before, but I liked the stories as a kid. Mr. Frog and Mr. Rabbit. Mr. Rabbit would go visit Mr. Frog and go to Mr. Frog's cute little house, and they'd have tea together. That's cool. There were some aspects of C.S. Lewis that I liked. The Hobbit's one of my favorite stories, when they're all Bilbo Baggins in his little hobbit house having dinner together, and they're about to undertake the greatest journey ever. go find Smaug, the dragon. And The Hobbit was incredibly fascinating to me. I did not get into the Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Rings, any of that, because it just lost me. The Hobbit was cool. Star Wars was cool. I'm not a Star Wars junkie, but I saw a lot of them, and it was good stuff. I later learned that Mr. George Lucas wove his Eastern religious philosophy through the whole thing, and what's funny is nobody had a problem with that. I never heard any atheist stand up and scream about that. In fact, I didn't hear anybody. The only people that pointed it out to me were other Christians. Says, "Oh, did you know that Lucas, when he talks about the Force?" No, I did not. And so it was fascinating to me that when I became a Christian, when I already thought I was different, that was when I became a Christian, I became different squared. As in mathematics, MC squared. And all my life, I've gone through life going, I'm outgoing, I'm people friendly. But I always got the sense, I'm not part of this club. I'm not part of this dynamic. I couldn't live in most people's homes, and they could not live with me. Not because I'm going and be obnoxious and have all these rude habits. No. Because the older I get, I realize all of us carries a dynamic about us. And the older I get, I find solace in having my own man cave to retreat from the world. A place where who I do invite in feels warmth, peace, enjoys their company with me, and leaves feeling refreshed. That's my dream someday. Humanity is changing. It is changing rapidly. But some of us out there still hold to an ideal of wanting close, solid, healthy friendships. I had to confront somebody recently. Somebody who was talking down, being rude. Somebody who I had always respect, and I said, hey, you don't need to talk to me that way. There's no call for that. I've always respected you, but this needs to stop. You've been bitey for a while, and this needs to stop. Okay, well, fine. I'm not going to tell you anything anymore. And thus, the tension standoff began. And Pacific's approach was, in the past, when I was grossly dysfunctional, and then you add into the Christian faith and sincere but ill-informed Christians would say, well, you got to have peace, go up and reconcile, even if you're not in the wrong. And I tried that approach. And people who aren't well in their own minds go, oh, look, he came back to me. The older I get, I believe in standing on principle. You cannot do that. So another gentleman in the picture who's a friend of that guy waited for an opportunity to pounce on a conversation I was having with somebody else about something totally unrelated. I turned and said, I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to this person, and this isn't about you. In fact, I'll be blunt. I was having a conversation with another person about a political issue in Denver. In Colorado, they voted on and approved of. I said, this is destructive. This has brought nothing but problems to the state. A black woman agreed with me. And then this person turns to the person that I'm keeping my distance from. Not out of fear, but because it's like, this is kind of irreparable. Instead of him saying, Pacific, I'm sorry, I talked down to you and I shouldn't have done that. Let's rectify this. He wanted to be a girl about it. And I thought, no need to get up in his face. So the other guy, I said, so you go to him. I pulled him aside today. I said, you went to him. And you said this about the conversation I was having with her over here. You know I'm not talking to him. Why did you do that? Well, because I know that he does these things, and I just want to see if the things you were saying about this lifestyle is true. I said, but you know that he and I, right now, there's some tension there. Why would you do that? Let me just ask you, do you have something against me? Do you have something you feel you need to say? Well, I think you're acting like a girl about this. I said, I acted like a girl when he was out of line, and I looked him right in the eye, and you were seated next to him, as well as several other people in the room. And I said, very quietly, I lowered my voice. I said, hey, and I called him by name. I said, I've always respected you. I've always looked up to you. But you don't need to talk to me that way. You've been getting bitey and not so cool lately, and I'm asking you to please stop. Well, you didn't need to do that. That's just the way he is. Boom, PowerPoint right there. You know how many times I've heard all my life, that's just the way he or she is. Why is it only some people get that status? Over the years, I've started to come back with, what about this is just the way I am? How come nobody has to work with that? I have to understand that that's just the way he is, and that's just the way she is, but nobody has to understand this is the way Pacific is. I want you all to key in on that. Is this a conservative versus a liberal thing? Could be. But I don't think so. I think when people are uncomfortable with a confrontation, I'm going to define confrontation in just a minute because it's not going to be what you think it is. You know, you could look up Webster's definition of confrontation. Did you know confrontation can occur without you saying one word or doing anything wrong at all? I.e., you get up in the morning, you get in your truck, and you go to work. Confrontation starts the minute you drive your truck and you go the speed limit and you drive courteous and polite. In a society that is not driving courteous and polite and not being lawful behind the wheel, you've just created a confrontation. When you go into a workplace setting where the bulk of the people you work with are rude, don't respect boundaries of a lot of people, except they're groupies, when you work in a culture. And I said to this younger gentleman today, I said, hold it. You want to defend your friend? He was rude. And he laughed. He says, everybody in this room's rude, man. I said, uh-huh. So we just need to keep allowing this? Or do we just stand up and say, on an individual basis, you can do that with everybody else in here, but not me? I have authority that was given to me by God. And so do all of you. Man and women. Let me shock you. I said women in that. lot of people need to look up the definition of the word authority. Men, authority does not give you the right to go up to other women in the workplace when you're just an equal. You're both coworkers doing the same thing. To boss them, order them, demean them. No, that you don't have that authority. They're not your wife. They're not your girlfriend. They're not your relative. And even if they were, you don't have the right to lord over anybody. But in American dynamics, our culture does it all the time. Families do it. Workplace environs do it. Church environs. Hobby clubs. Lions Club. I don't care what club you go to. I don't care if you're part of a bicycle group. There's going to be somebody in every one of those settings that chaps your butt. There's going to be somebody in those settings that's going to somehow be, the way he or she carries him or herself is going to be the alpha. And it will be generally expectations set, unwritten, unverbalized, that he's the god, she's the goddess. Somebody comes in the group, participates nice, does everything, polite, friendly to everybody, but does not submit to she's the queen or he's the king. Guess what? Confrontation will take place. Pacific has lived his life making the mistake of trying to please so many people. A dysfunctional family that adopted me. I was not an easy kid to raise. I was high energy. And looking back in my life, I don't fit the mold. I didn't grow up like the kids across the street. One kid was putting electronic stuff together. Another kid was collecting baseball cards and into sports. Another kid was playing with stuff in the backyard. Me? If I felt like dumping buckets of dirt upside down over my head, I did it. It was rumored to me on more than one occasion that I took apart my peanut butter and jelly sandwich, took some snails, pulled the shells off, and shoved the snails in there and came back with the shells wiggling out of the bread and going, look. I wouldn't be surprised. But most of the time I was playing with dump trucks and running over toy soldiers with them and flooding the backyard and making a big Hoover Dam mess back there. I like to ride my bike and tie things to the back of my bike and drag them and watch them just get pulverized. I like to climb the hill behind my house in the Sierra Nevadas and go sledding, and the sled turned around and I'm facing head first and missing every stinking pine tree, and I get to the bottom going, I could have just been killed. I liked taking things apart. I like pulling apart garbage disposals, television sets, radios, anything electronic. And I went right for the speakers. I wanted those big magnets. My mother was on the phone with a neighbor down the street in Torrance, and in that time, when she had her back turned, I dismantled the entire dining room set. I don't remember doing that. I was very young. I've been man and honest enough to admit that I never wanted children. I never wanted children for several reasons. The biggest one is the one I'm going to tell you. For those of you that are curious, this one of my memoirs from Hong Kong. I wanted a metal stainless steel mug. This has I would like to use this for the rest of my days on this earth. It's my tea mug. It's not efficient because when I put the tea in there, you'll burn your hand when it's scalding. But it's from China, and it has significance to me because I lived there. The older I got, I came to the conclusion that my mother believed a lot of what the teachers, the female teachers in the public school setting believed. They don't know how to deal with boys. And if boys would only simply fold their hands in their lap like a little girl and say, yes, I want to learn and write and read books all day. And trust me, it would be much later on in life that I would really read. But at the same time, the dynamic of Pacific confounded even my parents. I was Dennis the Menace on one hand, but then when they locked me in my bedroom and put a catch on my door, they'd open the door to find total quiet, thinking I was up to something and I was assembling a 2,500-piece jigsaw puzzle. I can't believe he's doing that. I never thought he would do that. Pacific is doing that? They were shocked. And then my cousin came over from Temple City to visit one evening with my uncle and my aunt. And uncle were playing cards in the dining room, and then everybody went outside to do something, and I wasn't feeling good, and I was laying down on bed, and my cousin was sitting at the card table where I'd started this big, massive puzzle. And I heard something, and I said, what are you doing? Oh, I'm working on the puzzle. I said, really? I get up, and he was pulling it apart. I flew out of that bed, and I said, man, I chased him through the house, out the back door, and he ran barefoot right through my mother's cactus garden. And all I did was walk away like a cat with a fish in its mouth and go, don't mess with my puzzle. His father, my uncle, spent the entire rest of the evening picking spines out of his feet. I got in trouble. I said I chased him out the door. He ran into the cactus garden. He was pulling apart my puzzle. It didn't matter. Pacific got in trouble for stuff that I never should have gotten in trouble for. The way I would have handled that as a parent said, so you're pulling apart his puzzle. He chased you out the door and you run into the cactus garden. You had to go up 3 feet up onto the ledge to do that. Nobody walks in there. Nobody walks or steps in it, and you go and run into it? Sounds like you got what you deserve, pal. I don't do conventional. Duluth, Minnesota. I was driving a school bus, Central High School, in the Duluth Heights area. There was a beautiful high school student who was well endowed. She goes to get off. As I approached her stop, she gets up, starts walking down the aisle. And I hear this kid say, wow, look at her watermelons. I was just getting ready to turn around and dress that. Same kid stuck his foot out. The edge of her foot caught his leg. She started to go down, grabbed the seat. She turned around, walked right back, and went and socked him. I smiled. Bus driver, did you see that? She just socked me. I said, yeah, I saw it. I said, I think the punishment fits the crime. I said, first of all, before she got off, I said, you made a sexual harassment comment about the private parts of her body. I heard that. Then you stick your foot out so she trips. I said, if you would like me to write it up that you got punched by her, that you, on the football team for Central High School, got punched by a girl, I'll be more than happy to do that. Big guy. And he got quiet. The girl walks by my seat. Thank you, mister. You have a good evening. I said, you too. Take care. She goes, I will. And she smiled. I did what was fair. I talk a lot about feminism. I talk a lot about how ugly, nasty, wicked, and wretched feminist and American women have become. But at the same time, a woman has to be treated with dignity. You don't comment distastefully about a woman. Gets up out of her seat, walks, and you say, look at her watermelons. And then you stick your foot out and trip her. She was drop dead gorgeous. She could get any date in high school she wanted to. And then you do that, Mr. Football Stud. She had every right to pop you one. But what do you do when your name is Pacific Ocean Asia? I don't fit any mold, anywhere, anytime. My channel, my essence pulls from all over the globe. That there are people who, once they get to know me and know my heart, they care. I told you I'm surrounded by an awful lot of low-end. And I make that differentiation. Low-end Hispanic culture here in Denver. They don't respect, they don't value me at all. But not just me, but most whites. They have wholly stuck to their culture, their ethnicity, their familial nucleus. Not all of that is necessarily bad. When you see them hating on us, I just shake my head and go, you left your culture, your country, because it was bad and corrupt. You came over here because white people let you come over here. And now you want to say we're all racist and we're evil and empire builders. And what are you doing in Denver? You're taking over neighborhoods, bars on the windows. You're making your own laws. You're throwing out the white man's laws. It's rush hour, bumper to bumper traffic, 4 lanes. 2 each direction with a suicide lane. I see some clown come out of 7-Eleven to my left. He comes straight across. And I stop my bus. And his vehicle is right here in my driver's seat. And he's blocking 2 lanes of traffic. He's sticking out. And I'm looking at him and I just mouth the words, what are you doing? He wants to go from the convenience store across 4 lanes of traffic to the Mexican restaurant across the street. I'm at a red light, a few cars behind the red light, and I'm watching the traffic on the other side of the red light. It's going to go his direction. Oh, this is going to be fun. Light changes green, and before they even cross the intersection, I hear the horns being held down, and they are laying on the horns. All the guy has to do is turn right, straighten out, and go the flow of traffic and get out of the way. Nope. He's going to wait. He's going to wait and block the whole street because, darn it, I'm going to get over there. Instead of making a right, going up, making a left, making a right, come around back the proper way. And this is not just some of the bad Hispanics. But we know white people that do that. We know the guy in his Porsche missed his turn. And he's in the left lane over here. and there's 3 lanes to his right, and there's a freeway exit over there, and he's going to stop in the 3rd far out left lane, and he's going to sit there with his blinker going and wait for everybody to stop and let him move 3 lanes over. People behind him are honking, and he's not going to move. Dude, miss your freaking exit. Go down, get yourself situated, and try to hit it again. Nope. I watch people do this. Go to the supermarket, go to the mall, and you come down an aisle and a car stops right in front of you and you can't get around it. You're going, okay, who's backing out? They're probably waiting for somebody to back out. Nobody's backing out. They're just going to wait. So I'll tap the horn. They look at me and go. I'll get out and say, hey, you got me and other people behind you. I don't know what you're doing, but we need to get around you. Well, I'm waiting for this parking spot. I said, there's nobody in the vehicle. You might want to move. I get a dirty look. Window glows up. They glare. I get into my truck. And as I'm walking in my truck, I shake my head to signal the other motorists. Dum-dum. You know the kind. They're all over this country. Pacific isn't like that. I don't like offending people. I don't like angering people. But I learned something over the years. When you walk contrary to what everybody else does, when you believe in something called truth, when you're a conservative, when you're real, when you're honest, when you're not pretentious and you're not showy, I promise you, you are going to get it. The scribes and the Pharisees mentioned in that temple setting where Jesus walks in and uproots the tables and throws everything over and says, how dare you? They wanted somebody to come in and say, hey, good boys, I love what you're doing. They wanted somebody to come in and smash Rome's butt with an iron hammer. They wanted this victorious Hollywood guy who's galloping on a horse, swords a-blazing, and just taking out all the bad guys. They didn't expect some countrified guy with a robe and sandals to come riding a donkey into Jerusalem. And they certainly couldn't understand people laying palm branches in the road. Hosanna, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Now, the only sermonette I'm going to get in here, Jesus is coming back. And it does say in the Bible he will come on a white horse. And when he comes, he won't be on a donkey. Then the world's going to see some raw power. I'm vain. There are times I wish that I had financial power. I wish I had a Pacific Ocean superliner, the grandest ship afloat that people all around the globe talked about. I wish I had the kind of money where when I think of some of the people I've gotten to know through the YouTube channel over the years, the ones that are my friends, the ones that can be trusted, and a shout out to a gentleman named Withheld, who made a video today welcoming me back and giving me wise pearls of wisdom. I wholeheartedly agree with you. Don't get close. to people on YouTube. When I talk about people that I'm close to, these are people from prior, my inner cabinet. White women, white guys, black man, some people that I know, people from Canada. Most of these people are from the East Coast. One from California. I trust them. But you haven't met them face to face. They have been consistent. I've seen their Facebooks, I've seen their interests, I've seen their way. I think of a woman in Virginia whose suburban's getting older and is having trouble, and she works so hard at her job. And if I was a billionaire, I'd say, man, I'm buying you a new Suburban. Free. No strings attached. Take it. There's no romantic interest. There's no motives. There's another gentleman. I'd buy him a small diner restaurant and say, okay, chef, the key to this front door is yours. You get to name it. You get to open it. You get to fire it up. It's fully loaded. All you got to do is prepare the food and get the customers in here. There's another gentleman who lives in a really poo pot section of America. And I thought, what would I do? I'd buy a house for him somewhere. Not a big fancy Taj Mahal, but a place. It's bought and paid, and all he's got to do is pay the property taxes year to year. Easy to maintain, nice solid place that he can call his own. I'd have me a studio. We'd have music, bells and whistle, sights and sounds, and I'd have a complete entourage of technical prowess people to know how to put things together. And yes, with the help of my team and my knack for talking, we'd put together a video show that would far exceed 29,000 views or 29,000 subscriptions, or my former 3250. But we're too easily entertained and distracted. There's not a lot of people in our culture today that like to hear raw talking truth. They want bells and whistles and distractions because we got ADD because of the internet age we live in. I am a lightning rod. I don't just walk into a public place and start mouthing off. But something about me makes certain people uncomfortable quickly. And as I've gotten older, I've gained more discernment to go, I'm not going to feel comfortable in that person's house. I'm not even going. Is it because you think you're better than them? Not at all. I love people. But the more you traffic in humanity, you see the good, the bad, and the ugly. I hope nobody picked on Dashaya. It caused her to remove all her videos, or maybe I just didn't find them, the ones she took the time to make and speak. We live in a disturbing age where when people see something that's different, instead of studying it, analyzing it, and appreciating it, They want to capture it, smother it, and kill it. When people are convicted or confronted about their discrepancies, we see this a lot on the internet. In the last week since the Florida school shooting here in Denver, the Denver Police Department said that there was all kinds of activity on Twitter and stuff with students making threats right in the metro at other schools. It is easy for people to be rude. And back to the gentleman that I had the conversation with today, he later came up and said, I was wrong. I shouldn't have said what I said. I butted into your conversation that had nothing to do with me. I said, why'd you do that? He goes, well, I don't know. I knew why. You wanted to force a confrontation because he didn't think I'd stand up. And I did. And he backed down. And this is what you have to do, folks. You don't force a confrontation. You be who you are. And if somebody has a problem with it and they come making their snipes and comments to your face, you turn around and say, I'm sorry, do you have a problem that we need to discuss? Do you have a problem with my view? What does that have to do with anything? I'm not talking to you. You need to stand your ground. In the case of the internet, when you have people that exist in the shiploads on social media just to be rude, you don't feed them. I made that mistake, grave mistake, feeding a variety of trolls. That's what they want. I definitely digressed. Because I wrongly believed you could present a reasonable response that would appeal to some sort of care, heart, mental sanity. And it took me time to realize you're assuming that these people have mental sanity that are dishing out the kind of comments and abuse and attack and stalking and dog. Come on, Pacific. That's monkey business. No, I am different. I'm not saying I'm above everybody and I've got some sort of godhood status. No. I use the term misfit, and I don't like it. It's derogatory. I'm not a misfit. I'm unique. And I'm proud to be unique. Barring the fact I've done dumb things or made stupid decisions, as we all do, I like who I am. If I want to grow my hair long, I grow it long. If one day I get tired of it and cut it all off, I cut it off. If I want to wear a choker necklace or a 90s chain that somebody doesn't like, it's not 90s, by the way. It was brand new when I bought it. And it was, a few years ago. I don't mean to be rude, but when men are commenting on how ugly you are, you might want to fling back to them, what are you, gay? Why are you judging my looks? Dude. You should be looking at the chicks, not me. When they're commenting on your mannerisms and expressions and just stupid, insignificant stuff, you should just say, so what is the substance of your attack? But yes, the best thing with people like that in an internet setting is to not engage. I know for a fact, irregardless of my mistakes, irregardless of decisions I have made that I probably shouldn't have, well, the lesson I learned from the last time is for all these people to do what they did and the cheesy, to quote the gentleman tonight, the victory video in Hong Kong, which was a joke. It was proof they had issues. If a person is of all that the snarky comments are directed at, is a loser and retarded and got mental issues, why would somebody who's got a superior intellect, who's setting him or herself far above myself, in ranting and going on, why are they directing so much energy to a loser? Because deep inside they know that it isn't true. The content of my messages bothered them. The content of who I was and me being who I am shattered their expectations in a society, in an American society where a lot of men act like the Coors commercial, in control, the chest puffed out and talking tough. That was one. Pacific just comes on talking about reality. Things that bother him, things that he's done, things that he's experienced. In a culture that prides itself on superficial, L-I-T-E, light, and the whole fake, or the overly macho, grandstanding, peacocking strut that many males do, when inside they're little boys. Something was damaged at some point, and they overcompensated the other way. As I used to say boldly in my videos, we're pendulum swing people. If this happens, we swing all the way over here. An American woman has a bad experience with a man. Oh, now I'm going to become a full-fledged lesbian. Does anybody remember the movie Babe? The first one. I love that movie. And yes, I'm a guy. Something connected with me in that movie. I don't remember the exactness of the scene because it's been so long ago since I saw it. The little piglets are there, and Big Mama gets pulled from them. And Babe's the one pig that you hear him. I remember if he stood upon his hind legs, Mama, and it crushed me inside. I related to that. Pacific has always had a problem with this culture. And for many years I couldn't put my finger on it because I never knew how to articulate it, because you're bounced You're like a ping pong or a pinball in a pinball machine. I mean, you're thinking something, you know, ding, 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 and our culture does that to us. And you fall down this little hole, and suddenly it goes point. I was meant for heart and soul. Meanness doesn't just go on in America, it goes on all over the world. I remember when I was in Iloilo, 2008, the lady I was chasing after, we got on a bus. We were heading back to Tigbowen. We had gone to Antique. It was a long day. It was a 3-hour drive up there, 3-hour drive back on a bus. We came down through Iloilo, came down through Miagao, and boarded another bus. And late in the night, blasting down a Philippine highway, I went to get on the bus. The bus is kind of full, but there's 2 seats open. And there's a Filipino smaller than me. And he's sitting there, man-spreaded, half his body across the other seats. And he glares, and I thought, you know, I'm going to put not my wife between him, but so I slide in. I looked at him, I said, excuse me. Nothing. And I thought, really? I needed to make room for my woman. So I pushed my leg gently against his and helped him move over, and he just glared, and I just looked at him like, what, are we going to have an altercation? We need to sit down. This wasn't a city bus. And I wasn't going to say, hey, you think you can move? I'm the white guy. I'm the American on a bus packed with Filipinos. And I just quietly, in my own way, said, okay, if you're not going to move, I'm going to move you. And if you want to stand up and say something, I will say something. Hey, driver, I'm trying to have a spot for this woman and I to sit. This guy's hogging up the whole seat. When I was getting on a jeepney, she got in first. I got in after. We sat down. Jeepney makes numerous stops along the way. An old woman goes to get on, and she's dragging a big old box of stuff. And don't know what's all in it, but it's heavy. The locals, they're sitting in the jeepney. Nobody's offering a hand. The young brown-skinned, muscular Filipinos are sitting in the back, thinking they're all cool. And I said, wow. I got up. I said, here, ma'am, let me get that for you. And I grabbed the box for her. The woman was beside herself. God bless you, thank you, thank you. She starts talking in Tagalog to the woman I was with and saying, you know, who is this guy, man? He's nicer than our own. And I want to make it clear, I didn't make this clear in my other videos. I've done some thinking over the years. I've rehearsed the whole week that I was there in the Philippines. And these are the things I haven't told you. They weren't always nice over there either. I got on the jeepneys and I'd watch the schoolgirls, teenagers, you know, with the uniforms on. They'd get on the jeepney. And I made sure to look at their faces because, excuse me, I had a belief that they're these smiling, happy, brown-skinned, long black hair islanders. They looked pensive. They looked unhappy. And I just sat there going, this is kind of awkward. I'm in their culture, and I had an expectation, and it wasn't there. We had gotten off a jeepney one day, downtown Iloilo. We get off. I hear somebody shouting in Tagalog, and of course, you know, when you hear somebody yelling, yeah, there's people everywhere. I turn, and there's a Filipino across the street. He's got his shirt off, and he's... I point at me. Yeah, I said, hey, to my girl. I said, what? What's he saying? She stands there and listens for about a half a second. I don't know, let's go. Whatever it was, she wouldn't tell me. We were in Antique. She was at her friend Evelyn's house. I went in and visited everybody, but it was all girl talk. All the girls were in there, and me, never been here before. I said, hey, you guys are out here in the country, in the jungle. I'm going for a walk. Thought nothing of it. Went out the door, started walking down this dirt road. Trees on either side. House here, Filipino house. As I'm walking down this dirt road, people are in their properties. And they start moving closer to the end of their driveway or walkway, and they're staring. I'd smile and go, they're not smiling. The road starts to narrow, and I see a Filipino stop what he's doing, and I thought, oh, he's sizing me up, not good. I said, hello. Nothing. I got to the road, started to really narrow, and I turned around and started walking back the other way and said, Civic, it's time for you to go back to Evelyn's house right now. And I walked. Evelyn says, how was your walk? I said, I don't think the villagers were real welcoming. I'm not sure what they thought of me walking. It didn't dawn on me at all that where I was, well, we were not in a major city. We were way off the beaten path. Almost like an outpost. And I heard somebody start talking in Tagalog. I heard it coming from the house upstairs. And I heard him yell, ha ha ha, wah wah wee. And then I heard him say, hey, Nani, there's a white man. Go out, look, white man. Maybe you marry him. I'm thinking, are they talking about me? Wah Wah Wee was a Philippine game TV show, and I thought, well, they all got TVs. And it only took me later on, after the years went by, I still ran that through my mind. What was going on? I'm just one. Why did they feel threatened or feel uncomfortable and not? Maybe they think of the old movies where the white man show up riding the horse and start shooting everybody and take over. But yeah, me, come on now. Who knows what went through their minds? Later, when I walk with Evelyn and the entourage of the locals that were with Evelyn and the woman I was with, they still weren't friendly, but they saw I was with them. And it hit me. You have to be with these people you're with. You can't go running around by yourself here. This is not the United States Pacific. That was an eye-opener to me. You walk around in these places, you're liable to get killed. They don't know if you're safe. They don't know if you're friend or foe. They don't know who you are, and there are no white people out here. And that was in my head. shaved. I mean, like that. Kind of curious to go back now with long hair and see how they react to that. Why were you going back to the Philippines? I don't know if I'm doing it yet, but I'd like to for a couple weeks. Because I want to return to Asia, but not Hong Kong. And because the other reasons, they'll become evident later. If indeed the voyage happens. But I've always been different. And most of my life I've felt bad for that. Most of my life I've had to be apologetic or made to feel bad. And a lot of that happened growing up. Adopted by a mother who never became a fully functional, well-balanced woman herself. Has 4 children. One from one family she adopted, and me adopted at 4 months. And I desperately needed love. I'm demonstrative. I'm tactile. My mother was not. And I remember an event stood out often, played over and over. This happened a lot. My parents were chain smokers. One cigarette after another. And riding 300-mile trips from Mammoth to LA to Mammoth, visit family down there. Trapped in a car with them smoking like chimneys, and I would work up the courage. Mom, Dad, could you please? And I'm almost scared to raise my voice and trembling. Could you please crack the window? To hear my mother. Help, Pacific, you're so intolerant. And I always feeling, what did I do wrong? We'd go on a trip in a motel room, and we're all cooped up in the same room. My mom and dad taking 2 beds. My sister on the floor on one side of the room and me on the floor on the other. Always worried about somebody's foot stepping on us to get to the bathroom or whatever. And of course, my mom and dad had to have the TV going and noisy, and I said, man, I can't sleep with all this. Can you guys turn that off? You're so intolerant. Has any of you been through that? Growing up in our culture, somebody can't change their ways, and they force that on you. You have to be a victim of it. They're smoking. They're drinking, and then the ensuing crazy behavior. I've heard stories of people telling me how the holidays were always ruined by the uncle or the grandpa or the mother having too much liquor and throwing and smashing things and then yelling and screaming at everybody. And alcoholics, let me tell you something. I had to learn this the hard way. Alcoholics are great at projecting. They walk around like they've got everything under control and that there's something wrong with you because they're never going to tell you, yes, I'm an alcoholic and I've got a problem. I spent 30 plus years of my life being terrified of my mother. And this is not a video to demonize or vilify her. This is a video talking about my personal experiences. I pray to God that she wakes up to God's grace someday. That is my heart's prayer. My mother was not loving, was not sweet. I never felt comfortable around her, never felt like I could just go, Mom, it's so good to see you. I missed you. I love you. I could not say I love you to her. I would not hug her. I don't want her hands touching me. I don't want anything to do with her until her mind gets straightened out. So yes, I don't care who we are. Pacific has dysfunction. He grew up in a dysfunctional family. And Pacific doesn't always do everything right. Doesn't always handle everything with finesse. Does it mean I should curl up and say, oh, I won't have a channel? What did I write down? This was an important point. Most people are afraid to be who they are. And one of the biggest places that people are really afraid to be who they are, which is shocking when I tell you, because this setting is supposed to be the setting that is often supposed to be the hospital. That's figurative. Churches. Religious settings. I have found that when I became a Christian, the churches were even more of a place. You had to watch it. You don't tell people your struggles. You don't come clean. You fake it until you make it. I sat under a preacher a year ago. I couldn't believe it. He said in his sermon, he says, folks, we need to be doing these things. They're only fitting for God's people. And even if you don't feel like you fake it until you make it. And I wanted to say, no, you don't. You get real. I know a lot of people that are Christians or churchgoers and they're faking it until they make it. They're not sincere when they talk to you. Their body language, their tone. I'm amazed at how many Americans don't think about the tone with which they're communicating to somebody. I'm supposed to feel love, warmth, and genuine Christian care when you're talking to me like that? Man, I know what you're all about. It took me living in Hong Kong. It took me chasing a foreign woman to wake up to tone and body language. I can give tone, and I can give body language. And I'm trying to be more aware of that in my own life. Most people are afraid to be who they are. Religious reasons. Office or workplace dynamics. Fear of loss of promotion. I have watched grown men in a corporate office setting. I go, man, you guys, you're all eating out of each other's hand, and yeah. Why? Why do we do that? Why do we submit to that stupidity? When those people really don't care about us, why are we trying to seek to gain and win their approval and climb that little cheesy ladder? I look back on my folks with the whole smoking issue, and I have a renewed sense. I really like the laws that are starting to happen in some states. They're showing them on city buses in Denver. They're titled, "A Child Has a Right to Clean Air. Do not smoke around your child." And some places are starting to make that a law. I agree with that 100%. Don't make your addiction everybody else's frustration. And isn't that what our society does? Isn't that what women do with men? They say, well, if you don't accept my dog, it's over. Well, I play the TV all night long, full blast, and if you don't like it, whatever happened to change? Whatever happened to, why don't you do what makes the relationship work and be peaceful? Why don't you put the TV away and actually focus on each other and turn that noisy garbage off? Why are you so into your dog? Why are you so into your cigarette? Your kids are going and dying in the back of a car, stuffy hot air. And Dad's letting barking spiders go by the shiploads, and then you guys are puffing and huffing, and we're in the back seat going, this is blast, man. I got to endure this for 300 miles. We don't have any say because we're children. Every child has a right to clean air, and every child, when they want to go to bed at night, gosh, parents, if you're making a bunch of noise, shame on you. There are just basic things to human rights that are so abused in our culture because people are so in love with themselves and so addicted and so idolatrous about whatever it is they're into. They don't care if it affects anybody. How many personal times have I lived in apartment buildings and other places, and some idiot next door decides at 2 o'clock in the morning he's going to scream and yell at his wife and play the music full blast and throw beer bottles around, and you go over and knock on the door and say, hey, dude, I got to get up at 4 a.m. and you're waking me up. And he's just standing there going, and your point? You're bothering me. And you're going to do what about it? I guess I got to call the police. Because I can't talk to you. There's all kinds of idiots in the world, especially in our Western culture. Oh, if I want to start my Harley at 12 a.m. and rev it and yell and scream and I lived in a small town in northern Minnesota. And there was an elderly lady next to me. She came to me and she said, I've noticed you've had trouble with those neighbors across from you. They've talked about it. She goes, I did too. She said when their kids are teenagers, they play basketball till 12 o'clock at night. And I'm an old lady, and I go to sleep and say, hey, And they just laughed me off. And the neighbor next door came out one day and said, I know your folks aren't home, but the lady across the street has called me, and it's also bothering my wife and I. It's 12 o'clock. Can you guys knock off whacking the ball off the backboard and making all that noise? You think you could wrap it up? And even in a small town in Minnesota where everybody had a flagpole in their yard and salute America, the answer was, and then the dad came over the next door, what right do you got to tell my kids? And then I moved there not knowing all this, and then we got problems with this clown. They had a front window seat in the front of the house, flat, and they had the 3 windows in the row, and then the one opened out with a screen, and they built a built-in couch on the other side of that. They'd go to opening fishing for a week and leave town. And they made this little doggy bed right at that window. And all day and all night, I mean, I'm going to stop right there, but it went incessant. It was so loud it would reverberate staccato off the houses across the street, which ours was one of them. And I was down in the basement. And I learned when we got this house, I said, I'm moving in the basement. I don't like noise. I don't like neighbors' noise. I don't like people talking when I'm sleeping. I'm going down into the dungeon. Cement walls that thick. One little basement window, what was it, this wide, this long, and I stuffed a pillow in there, making it black as night. And I shut the bedroom door, because it was a well-insulated room, and I was out. Until I heard the door open, and my then wife said, Pacific, could you come upstairs for a minute? The Aho's dog is making a whole lot of noise. That was her last name, Aho. She wasn't being... And I went upstairs and I said, wow, that's ridiculous. And I said, well, I can't do anything. They're not home. I said, you know, we've tried to avoid this. I said, we know about all the neighbors having. I said, just call the police. Would you do it? I said, why don't you just do it? Call. You have a right to make the complaint. Well, I feel more comfortable. You're the man of the house. You do it. I did. This happened a lot. And after I divorced and left, she made peace with all the neighbors by telling everybody, yeah, he was the one that always called the police. Oh my gosh. Oh wow. Love this. No, I didn't. I called on this stuff over here, but this stuff, she was the one that had a problem with that. It didn't bother me. I was downstairs. Out of sight, out of mind. But because she's my wife, I was trying to honor her, and she told me to call. I called, but she wanted me to do it. I've lived in a small town. I've lived in a big city. And I got news for everybody here that'll shock you. Small town neighborhood dynamics can be scarier than big city neighborhood dynamics. I will never live in a small town like that again. If I did move to a small town, I'm going to really get to know kind of what's going on, the mood, the philosophy of the city and the town or whatever. And more, I'm kind of the guy that wants to be like a half a mile outside of town on that property that's really cheap, but it's got a well-built small house on it, and there's nothing to hear but the wind and the sound of God. That's what I want. Then who knows? They'll think, yeah, that weird dude with the chain, he lives way out there. Nobody's going to go down his road. Good. That's awesome. Pacific Ocean Asia can have his own private studio. And any of my friends are welcome to visit any time. I love people. But there's a lot of scary people. And I am different. And the older I get, I'm really liking that difference. I had a student came up to me a week ago. Why are you wearing that chain? I walked right up to him. I said, why are you wearing that chain? He had on a thin chain. Well, mine's a necklace. I said, so is mine. No, it ain't. That's a chain. I said, it's my necklace. I said, I made it my necklace. Why did you do that? I said, because I like it. And several of the other kids said, I like it too. I think it's cool. And several girls said, that is totally cool. And I take it off. Here, hold it. The kids pass. Whoa, man, that's heavy. Mister, could I try it on? I said, here, I'll help you. Blow your head down so it doesn't bang your face. Put it on. I said, now go look in the mirror. And they start giggling. Wow, that's funny. I like it. Pacific learned with his channel. The same thing I learned with students. Be real. Be who you are. And if the world sneers and laughs, oh well. At least I got some pleasure out of it. The world is sneering and laughing more, folks, because we're headed towards dark times. We are headed towards dark times. But this has always been a problem for people who don't fit the groove. Jesus Christ is God. Do you think he fit their little groove down there in Jerusalem? No. Do you think he cared what others thought of what, do you think he stopped in his mind and says, oh, they're all going to hate me when I go flip the tables over. They're not going to be very happy. Do you think that Jesus once thought, oh, they're going to think I'm not very Christian. I just damaged property. I just flipped these tables. I just showed disrespect. He's God. They disrespected his dad's temple. He had every right to do it. The more ironic thing is that those religious big shots didn't realize who they were dealing with. Pacific has some regrets in life. I'm human. Of course I do. If I could do a few things over again, I would. What's that? No need to tell. But I came back with this channel because I have a right to be heard. I have a right to say what's in my heart. And if I have to tailor my messages in a world that's becoming so censorship crazy, and I have to be politically correct and make the same muffin tin muffins that everybody else is expected to make, no, I'm not. I won't. I don't want to. Most American people, I see it on the bus all day long. I see it with adults. I see it in church settings. You come in being different, you have a target on your back. You come in being real, genuine, and see through the baloney, you're going to have a confrontation. It's as if though you walked into their midst and flipped over tables, even though you didn't. I walk into a setting like church with this and the chain around my neck, and even an older gentleman not from that church, but another says, "Why would you wear something like that? You're a Christian. You shouldn't be wearing that." And I said, "Show me where it says I can't wear a chain necklace." One guy approached me at the church I currently attend 2 years ago, and never had any conversation with him, and he hands me a bulletin and says, "I hope the Lord breaks the chains that are on your heart today as you hear the word of God." And I looked at him and I said, "This is a necklace?" And then he goes on about the chain thing, and I said, "I'm not in chains, dude. Gotta go." "Oh, no, wait. You're not in chains? Well, then after the service, you need to tell me, because if you're not in chains, I am, and I want to know how to get free from this." I said, "No, I don't need to tell you anything. I'm not comfortable with you. Goodbye." And I sat down. And he still kept being strange. And still kept being strange. I'd go out of church. Finally, I went to somebody who kind of reached out to me. I said, "What do I do with this?" And I told him. He said, "Who is it?" I said, "That guy right over there. He's not looking our way." But he goes, "Well, I'm in charge of all the greeters." And he said, that's not right. I said, "Well, I didn't think it was either, but I didn't know how to handle it. I don't want to make a scene and draw attention to myself. I'm here to go to church. I'm not here to get close to anybody." "You're not?" I said, "No, I've been through this before. I don't want to get close to anybody in here." I said, "I'm sorry to say this, but most of you don't realize that I see people all day long. I see bad drivers. I see most of humanity. I can see right through them, and I'm not here to play a Christian game. I'm here to hear the truth. I have friends. They're just not in here." And he apparently must have said something to the gentleman because he knocked it off. To make an assumption that I'm in chains because I wore a chain necklace. People, can I tell you something? And I have to tell myself this all the time. Just because you don't like something doesn't mean that you need to have some preconceived idea that the guy is this or that. Now, I'm opinionated about tattoos and piercings and all the things. I admit it. And I have my reasons for that. But this is something that comes off. Simple as that. The tats, the piercings, they kind of stay with you. I get more compliments on my necklaces and my chain necklaces and how I accessorize myself by, of all people, good-looking white women. I went to the doctor's office today, and beautiful blonde lady was my doctor, my physician today, and she goes, wow, now there's a necklace. She goes, that's got to be heavy. I said, it is. It's about 3 pounds. And I took it off so she could do the breath, hear my breathing through the stethoscope. It's a conversation starter so much of the time in a world that doesn't want to have conversation face to face. Sometimes I do things just because I think the idea is cool. And I also do it because I know it'll get a reaction. When I put that chain on it, I thought, I know people are going to say something about this, because when's the last time you see somebody walking around with a logger chain around their neck? I do things because I want to see people's reaction, but I like it. As I've gotten older, if I was riding in somebody's car and they got all the windows up and smoking away and they can't roll down the window for me, I'll say, hey, stop this thing. I want out of here. You're infringing on my freedom. I am a free spirit, and I'm a bit of a wild horse. A wild horse in the sense, not that I think I'm some bad ASS, but I'm a wild horse. Don't fence me in. Don't corral me in your little box. I run free on the pasture that God has given me. And I like that. And Pacific needs to find out his own way. And when I say that in a sense that sometimes some settings, they want to control you. They'll tell you how to dress. That a woman at work last December approached me. She's not somebody that I think high thoughts of to begin with anyway, but she approached me and says, if you cut your hair and came to that Christmas party and wore a suit and tie, I'll bet you get a girlfriend. I looked at her and I said, I'm not going to the Christmas party. I'm not cutting my hair. And I don't wear a suit and tie. And I can get a girlfriend without doing any of those things. Well, do you have one now? No. Well? I said, excuse me, I know you're born and raised in Denver, and I get that. I'm not from here. And even though I've had some interest in some girls here over the years, this is not my culture, and I don't think that I would have a meaningful lasting relationship with any of the Denver chicks. I'm confident in that. I said, you telling me that I need to cut my hair is insulting. You just walk up and feel the freedom to say that. We don't have a relationship with each other. You're not close enough to me to say that. When men in the United States believe that it's not about you doing something, if a woman's interested in you, good motive or bad motive, she's going to let you know you won't have to do a thing. I'm convinced of that. You won't even have to pursue her. She'll make the first moves. You just need to take the bait if you're into her. I'm convinced of that. Going out and looking for a girlfriend, men, is a waste. Let the women look for the men. They're doing it anyway. The idea that the man's supposed to be the pursuer, that doesn't work today. I did this video because many of you out there, many of you that won't even see this, that I wish would, feel like, man, I don't fit. I'm not smooth at anything. I'm not polished. I'm trying to tell you, that's okay. Every one of us has limitations. Some have more finesse in this area than I do. But I know this for a fact. Pacific has things that only Pacific has, that I'm not giving away to anybody. And I'm not talking about things. I'm talking about the essence of me. I don't care, man or woman, if you only have one string on your broken guitar, play it. Don't you ever tell your kids they're intolerant because they're suffering under your habit, your addiction, your lack of time with them, or you're got to have your TV full blast and they can't get a good night's sleep. Don't ever do that to your children. That is abuse. I know. It took me 52 years to get to the point of actually calling it what it is. In order for your child to flourish, they need to feel loved by mom and dad. I'm not talking about kids smarting off and criticizing everything you do, but boy, when your kid's telling you, man, this cigarette smoke is getting to me, you might want to quit your habit, mom and dad. In America, adults and students do this too. And it's a sad, sad reality. I'm into something, therefore I'm going to make you into it too. Man, you don't walk like us. You don't dress like us. You're either going to change or we're going to make your life miserable. That is bullying. That's like a peacock going up to an elephant and saying, wow, you look stupid. And the elephant turns around and says, I'm sorry, what did you say? And what are you? I'm a peacock and you're stupid looking. And the elephant just sits his big fat butt down and goes, bye, Mr. Peacock. I can't hear you anymore. What is the point of that analogy? Animals don't criticize each other. I know somebody will say, oh, they just eat each other. Oh, that was a good one. People are so mean, so cutting, so rude. That's a sign of a problem up here. That is a sign of a problem that you have to shoot down, put down, attack somebody who's not just like you. Or you hear somebody speak whose thinking is unlike anything you've heard. I'm not talking about somebody who's off in the deep end wrong. You have every right to say your viewpoint is wrong and here's why. But somebody who looks at the world different, somebody who sees and has experienced things, and just because they're not just like you, and you think you're so cool, and you got a little support group that thinks you're cool because they're all just as blind as you are, be careful. You might be surprised one day if God says, you know what? You thought you were all that on a stick. You're a loser. This guy over here that you criticized, he was doing exactly what I asked him to do. You might want to watch out. You're criticizing the Creator's handiwork. You're throwing comments to my Creator when God says He loves me. And I've had to work at this over the years, that God's love is greater than any woman can give me. God's love is limitless. It is unconditional. And that's why I have the boldness and the bravery to be who I am. If we let all the darkness just keep pushing and pushing and run and hide and relent, how are we shining our light? No, Pacific isn't perfect. And God knows none of you are. But it's about being real. It's about being true to myself. It's about being who I am. And I kind of like, over the years, what I've become. I don't like my mistakes with regards to romances of the past. But I've learned a lot from those. I've learned something about myself. I learned over the years in trying to gain acceptance from the mother who adopted me, and I never got it. Three women that I married, they all embodied, all three of them, the same dynamic as my mother. I could not measure up to any of those three ladies. That none of them could ever admit I was wrong. That they're part of a platoon of American women who have grown up with entitlement, feminism, a female media-dominated culture, a female teaching-dominated culture that has told them and empowered them to believe men are the ones that are messed up, not you. And the damage that has been wrought by these kind of women, most of these women will never know because men are taught to suck it up. I know I was affected by this. My wings were clipped for so many years. I was never able to soar. And there are scars. There are scars from growing up with this. That sadly, no, I don't believe in Freud that every man wants to have sex with his mother. I think that that is totally ludicrous. I never, ever had that thought cross my mind, ever. I wanted acceptance. I wanted to be loved by her as a mother ought to love her child. And it became clear, you're not their flesh and blood, dude. Blood is thicker than water. I saw it play out with their natural daughter. She was the favored one. I was thrown away by mother number one, the natural one, only to be thrown aside by number two. And believing that marriage would solve the problem, not looking for a mummy, but without trying, I found myself attracted to women that had that cold side. And that's funny because I'm not cold. I don't even like the cold weather anymore. My nickname used to be Stormy because I love storms, but I don't like the cold. Excuse me, I don't like cold-hearted people. I like nice people. I like people who play nice, drive nice, be nice. And to hear a comment today by a fellow coworker say, well, everybody in this room is rude. Why'd you just not take it to heart? I said, I wish I could be like you, dude, but I'm not. Well, I'm not telling you to be like me. I said, you are. You're telling me that you don't let this stuff bother you. That's great. But I don't roll that way. I believe in being nice, and when people aren't being nice, they need to be told, hey, you know what? You're being rude. If you're going to address me, then don't be rude, and if you can't, then don't talk to me. Why do we as a culture, in our American culture, allow the evil to proliferate? We do it all the time, don't we? Bad drivers are out of control, and it's because we just keep letting it happen. The trolls that just dominate the internet and social media, because collectively people aren't standing up and saying, hey, Google, we're going to storm the gates of hell with this. Do something about these people. And we got different kinds of trolling today, don't we? We got a Facebook culture that's censoring conservatives. We got a liberal left-dominated media, both in the TV and the internet, that they're mocking and making fun of anybody that voted for Trump, anybody that believes in, God forbid, the Bible. You don't believe in evolution? Well, you're dumb. That's what they say. Oh, well, I'm not going to listen to some loser who doesn't believe in science. As if you really believe in science, dude. What you define as science is not the real definition of. Evolution is not science. It is an agenda to subvert people away from a spiritual relationship with God and turn them into soul-gratifying, self-gratifying, narcissistic consume culture that we've arrived at today. So if people don't like Pacific and I don't fit in, thank you, God. At least I know I'm on the right track. Broad is the road that leads to destruction. Many there be that walk on it. Narrow is the way to eternal life. Few there be that find it. But even if you're not a Christian and you don't believe, you like to read a lot of books and people make fun of you for that, don't pay mind to that. You like to do something different. You like to be different. And it means being expelled from the social clubs out there. I look at my break room at all the cliques that sit at different tables. And there's a growing group of us. We call ourselves the ones that sit on the wall. We're on the window wall of the break room. I used to sit at tables. I used to stand by the lunch counter. Now I'm on the wall. New people are coming in. A black woman from Mississippi. She to me is like Aunt Jemima. She is big. She is funny. I took her to Davy's Chuck Wagon the other day. I said, I'm going to take you to a nice little diner. It's been freeing for me in the last couple of years since I terminated my old YouTube channel. I've been just going out with people and friends. There's no romantic interest for me to them whatsoever. Just enjoying humanity, the good people. It was heartwarming to go into this diner, which is in Lakewood, which is a white diner, and the waitress talked to her. The gentleman sitting next to her talked to her. Oh, you're from the South. And she said, Pacific, next week when we get paid, we're coming right back here, and I'm paying you for lunch. I said, you don't have to do this. She goes, no, but I want to. She goes, this reminds me of the South, the steak and eggs. You know, I had a good time because you don't have the pressure of, oh, does she like me? I gave her a lift home from work today. She had observed the dynamic of these other two guys I work with. She goes, I saw all that. I said, did you see the way they handled that today? She goes, you had every right to say what you said to them. You had every right to stand up and say, don't talk to me that way. She said when she jumped into our conversation about marijuana and legalizing it in the state of Colorado and jumped all over you like that. She goes, I was about ready to get them to say, you know, you all need to mind your own business because I don't believe this has anything to do with you. And the way you're treating Pacific is just disgusting. And you know why people do this? They don't just do it to me. They do it to others because they can. Because society doesn't go out. I told you the story about the handicapped girl swimming alongside me in the pool at the rec center. 2 kids are sitting up there smarting off, you know, just smarky comments. And I walked right, water up to here. They're sitting on the edge. And I said, hey, you need to stop right now. I'm going to tell you right now. But I said, I don't want to hear a word out of your mouth. I heard what you already said, and I heard what your friend said, and you need to stop. And the little black boy sitting next to him says, man, you just need to stop because we don't need to get in trouble. And I wasn't even talking to a black kid. I was talking to a white kid. So I'm going to tell you something. You making fun of people like that? Who do you think you are? That's my friend that you're making fun of. Well, I said, I don't want to hear it. I heard what you said. I cut him off. I shut him down. I said, let me tell you one more thing, young man. If you think I'm playing, I'll march right up out of this pool and go to the lifeguard right over there because I know some of these people in here. I'll get your butts thrown out that front door. And they'll be telling you to go get your mommy and daddy. Keep your mouth shut. If we don't stand up one moment at a time, we just let this happen. We need to ask ourselves, what is the problem? Are we afraid? Don't want to get involved? Afraid some parent might come up and say, who are you talking to my kid? Who am I? I'm Pacific Ocean Asia. I'm here swimming. This is my friend, and your kid is making rude comments about her handicap status. You might want to address that, Mom. And if Mom wants to get stupid on me, I'll say the same thing you I said to him. I'll be more than happy to go to the lifeguard and say that we got some bullying going on now. You want to address that? You know, why are we afraid? Those of us that stand on the truth, those of us that stand on conservative politics. I saw a car go down the street the other day. He said, I'm a proud Democrat. I thought, really? You just lost the last election big time. I've never put that on the back of my truck. I wouldn't even put I'm a proud Republican because I'm not. There's a church in Denver called Scum of the Earth. There was a term the Apostle Paul said, we are counted as the scum of the earth. It was a catchy, trendy, cutting-edge kind of a name, but they're trying to reach people that the traditional church in America won't even attempt. Guys covered in the tattoos and the gauges and the gothic and the cigarettes and the bongs hanging out of their mouth. They're trying to reach them for Jesus Christ. And you know what? It's not the place I'm going to go, but my hat's off to them. My hat is off to them. The whole world needs the truth. And to the gentleman today that made the video welcoming me back with his words of wisdom, thank you. That was awesome. It's time that people wake up and smell the coffee. You're not going to be popular if you're speaking the truth. You're not going to be popular if you be real. You're not going to be popular if you're associated with, aliases with, believing the views with Pacific Ocean Asia. I promise you that. My question to you and every one of my viewers, do you hide in the shadows? Or do you stand up and be counted? I want to say something, and it's time to say this. When Andrew Drescher left one of his last written threats under one of his numerous bogus YouTube aliases, said, you better watch it. He said, not one of your fans is going to come to your defense or do anything for you. he was speaking the truth. At that time. Oh, people wrote me and said, oh, what he's doing. But it's true. I had to learn something real quick. Whatever battle you fight, Pacific, don't expect the troops to come. But whatever battle Pacific fights, I'd better be willing to be a man and stand up and pull on my big boy pants. Or your view ain't worth defending, is it? Forget about being the Marlboro Man. Forget about being Burt Reynolds. Why don't you be a man? Why don't you be a woman? I know a woman at work, when she was on my Facebook. She's Hispanic, drop dead gorgeous, bisexual. But she told me she was voting for Trump. I said, man, you don't have anything on your page that would indicate that. Well, no, I don't let people know my views. Why not? You got all these people in this break room that eat out of your Hispanic hand because they're all Hispanic, and none of them know you voted for Trump. Because I know that if you were to tell them, they probably wouldn't want to hang out with you anymore. Now, come on, folks. I'm not talking about wearing stuff on your sleeve and being obnoxious, but I am going to say something. If you got to hide your views because you're afraid you'll lose your popularity, you have some problems. Pacific has had a lot of years of alone. And it is my belief that if you can learn to live alone, you're a lot stronger than all those that have never had to. If you're able to stand up for what you believe, even if the whole majority laughs and rattles and gnashes their teeth at you, you're stronger than all of them. If God is real, if God's word is true, why are we acting like cowards when they threaten and bully and intimidate? Why are we doing that? So what if you don't walk lockstep with the church or the people or the internet, whatever you call them out there, that's going to hold you accountable? And they're God, and they're following His standards. I mention this because the very one that was dogging and criticizing me for this and that was issuing threats, was harassing and stalking, doing illegal behavior under the banner of the United States military, and you didn't understand that, man, you're breaking every known law. Don't you dare talk to me about my hypocrisies, discrepancies, this, that, and the other. Don't you dare talk about me talking about this real stuff I've gone through with other people and being honest and transparent about it. I have nothing to apologize for. When people try to censor your speech and say, well, you shouldn't say this about some... excuse me, they shouldn't be doing what they're doing to begin with against me. Yes, I'll talk about it. Freedom of speech. Thank you. That's not guaranteed to me just from the U.S. Constitution. That's guaranteed to me from here. Now, yes, there's some conditions in that book about our speech, and all of us should check those things. Now, I'm not going to get into those right now, but there's a whole lot of things conditioning about how our speech should be. And sometimes my speech is not always right. Sometimes my speech can be, God, I shouldn't have said that. That was profane. That was dirty. That was unbecoming of one who professes to be a Christian. And believe me, I'm surrounded by foul language all the time, and I hear it all the time, and I've used it a lot of the time. And I need to be more disciplined to say, you know what? People who cuss and use all that language and make it a steady habit, that's low class. Can we not rise above this? Can I rise above it? I started my video series coming back this time, The Hatred from the Left. Folks, it is a real dynamic. Rush Limbaugh talks about it, and Coulter talks about it, conservatives talk about it, and Christians talk about it. The left is trying to redefine terms. They're calling us the haters. Pacific was never on the internet trolling and stalking and harassing people. He made a video for him talking about things. Talking about his own experiences. And apparently some people got very uncomfortable with what they were hearing. Probably because it was stepping on the toes. Probably because it was stabbing a sword right through their own heart. Yeah, you're guilty of this too, buddy. And I said I wasn't going to do this, and I didn't intentionally try to do this, but it comes back to this. The prophets in the Bible, Jesus told the Jewish people and the religious leaders, you who stoned the prophets. The Jews did not like hearing Jeremiah talk about going into captivity. God told Jeremiah to tell him that. And this is what happens. When you don't like the message, shoot and crucify and demonize and harass and stalk and do every manner of evil against the messenger. That's what people do. They did it to Jesus Christ. Who's this idiot? Isn't he the son of Mary and Joseph? We know him. No, you don't know him. You know him as the baby born here, but this is God you're talking about. That was born of a virgin, conceived of by the Holy Spirit. No, you guys don't know this guy. You think you do because he was raised up in your village? Actually, he was raised in eternity. He always has been. This is why Pacific doesn't celebrate Christmas. Because the misnomer that has been translated into our culture, that many well-meaning and sincere Christians, though not so enlightened up above on this issue. Jesus Christ is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. Why are we celebrating his nativity? Are we not sending a message to the society that he's not the eternal God when we do that? Jesus was never a baby. He's the eternal God. He wrapped himself in flesh for 33 years. You shall call him Emmanuel, which means God with us. And even in all that, the religious leaders, the religious know-it-alls, the scribes who would write down the scriptures, they missed it. They studied deeply the book, and they missed the own prophecies right in their Talmud that said, he must come lowly on a donkey. They missed it. They missed that whole section of Isaiah that says, come, though your sins be as scarlet. Come, let us reason together, says God. They missed it. And this world is doing the same to you that are different. Especially those of us that try to stand up for and believe in the truth. They ain't going to like us. You're not going to fill the Denver Pepsi Center with fans for Pacific Ocean Asia. It's not. You're not going to have 80,000 people in a Coliseum to listen to me. What I will say that is sad, I'll bet you'd get 80,000 people together in a Coliseum in America that would love to see me stoned and torn apart. That's how sick our culture's getting. And this isn't just me being a martyr. This is where we're headed. To the Christian community out there, I say this: why are you hiding? You're in America. Why are you not taking the opportunity to be bold? If you think being bold by putting a Christian sticker on the back of your SUV, man, you better wake up. Nobody cares. Nobody's impressed. When you drive stupid, it just makes you look duly stupid. Park that thing and stand up and get real. It's a fact. A lot of Christians are terrified. I've gone to churches where people are told how to share the gospel message. Man, why is this so hard for people? When I became a Christian, it was natural for me to go up and say, man, I got saved and this is what happened. And now we have to have entire seminars to educate people? It's like, I'm sorry to say this, people, but if you found all this food and you'd been starving and somebody else is starving and you know where the food is, all you got to do is say, hey, I found this food over here. Come, I'll show you. Man, if you've been in a big tourist resort like Disneyland and you're hot, thirsty in the California Anaheim sun and you suddenly find a drinking fountain, your group is with you, and you come back and they go, man, we're thirsty. Hey, I just found a drinking fountain. Come here, it's over here. You tell them. How hard is that? The feminists aren't afraid. The LGBT community isn't afraid. The atheists aren't afraid. The Buddhists, the Mormons, the Jehovah's Witnesses, they're not afraid. Why are those of us that are conservative or Christian or don't support evolution, why are we afraid? Why are we allowing them to push back? Why? If we really believe they're in the wrong, then we should be even bolder in our messages on this issue. Why are people afraid to admit in our break room around their Hispanic relatives and friends that they voted for Trump? I told her one day, I said, you know, I'm going to pray that God helps you to get more bold. She goes, what do you mean? I said, well, I don't think God wants you hiding who you are. And if you lose all your friends because of it, you'll gain other friends that are real instead of these superficial no-gooders. Of course, I'd love to see Pacific Ocean Asia grow into something awesome, but I don't even think that would happen today. This is just a forum. It's therapy. It's a way to talk. It's a way to communicate. It's the way to be a touchstone with other people out there so they don't think they're strange and weird and they can hear this and go, my gosh, I really love this stuff. call it empowering those that are tired of the darkness and left closing in and pushing and a boa constricting around our necks. Man, we need to stop giving into the fear. No, Pacific is different. I know that. I'm not going to be like anybody else. I'm 52 years old. I've tried for many years and it doesn't work. And definition of insanity, according to Einstein, is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Well, there you go. At some point, you got to wake up and say, this isn't working. And I'm going to tell you another thought in closing. The popular people, you know, the ones that everybody thinks is cool, I've lived long enough. They're not cool. It's just more of the world's fake news. It's just the messed up dysfunction of Western culture that, oh, if you're popular, you must be cool. No, it just means you got a lot of ignorant sheeple out there following you around, because the sheep will follow the big hotshot, not the one who's stating the truth. This is one thing I've learned about human nature. If everybody's adulating some actress, chances are she's on the left. Yeah, that's what it is, folks. I wrestled with this. Should you be talking about yourself so personally? Absolutely. You can watch stupid, dumb, benign videos all day long on YouTube. There's a video for everything. You can learn how to drive a tractor trailer on a YouTube video. You can learn how to pull your transmission out of a 95 F-150 on YouTube. You can watch anything you want to see. Some of those videos are awesome. They teach you how to do things. Or you can watch funny videos where people slip and their pants fall down and they get hit in the nuts with a golf ball, or, you know, the girl jumps out of the upper story window with her teddy bear and lands in the pool perfectly. But how many people want to watch a video of substance that fortifies their mind and enables and empowers them to become bolder? To my viewers, don't hide. I'm not talking about, oh yes, I expect you all to come out and make videos saying, well, no, not at all. I'm saying quit hiding your views in your personal world. Quit shrinking back. So what if they attack? A good rule of thumb to follow is if you got a bunch of people attacking you like that and doing the kind of things I saw, it's probably because you're hitting a nerve and you're where you're supposed to be. There's no other way around that. It doesn't mean I'm perfect, doesn't mean you're perfect, but if we're just a bunch of blubbering fools, why are all those people getting so angry and constantly making video, dogging, stalking? Because something that I'm saying is getting to them, and instead of them being man enough to deal with it and face it in their own personal life, them and God, let's shoot the messenger. Can you just see that? That's the new game show. Let's shoot the messenger. Today, somebody was offended because Pacific said, you've got 5 seconds to guess. What is marijuana? Ding! That is correct. You get $5,000. And Becky, it's now your turn. 5 seconds. You got butthurt over what Pacific said today, and he said what? He doesn't believe in evolution. Ding! $10,000. Good job. Okay, Susan. Now it's up to you. The last one, you have to be specific when you're talking about Pacific. People get butthurt over things that Pacific says. Pacific says what? Be who you are, no matter what. Ding! $20,000, a grand prize winner. And as a consolation prize, you'll get a life preserver that says Pacific Ocean Asia on it. Yes! Yay! Cheesy. I'm just being cheesy for the fun of it. You never realize the depth of psychosis, psychological nutness that goes on just over the very real dynamic of somebody's being convicted about what somebody says. The stuff that they will do would lead you to believe, man, this guy really thinks there's something wrong with Pacific. Look at the way he's attacking him. No. No, that's not it. They didn't like something I said. And that's the only way they can process it, is to act out, attack, and hold themselves in front of their tattered fan club and lead their tattered fan club, who obviously doesn't have an ounce of discernment to believe that, it's Pacific. Well, if Pacific is so, then why are you going over a? Why are you doing that? Why are you acting retarded over a retard? No, people don't do that. Rational, sound-minded people go, yeah, he's a loser. Ding, I'm out of here. Bye, Felicia. Does that mean just because somebody is able to look at me and say, bye, Felicia, that they're right? No. But my point is if I think somebody's a loser, I don't watch their videos. I don't dog them and dog them and dog them and dog them. I'm going to tell you something. Dogs and wild animals only chase what they know is a good piece of meat. That they can sink their teeth into. They ain't going to spend all their time and energy chasing a little frail rat. And I'm not a rat. I've lived long enough to know what conviction looks like. The smoke screen is, oh, look at him. He did this, he did that, he said this, he's done this. Oh my gosh, he's so hypocritical. No, I'm not a hypocrite. A hypocrite is one who pretends, wears a mask. The trolls are the ones that wear the masks. They don't show their faces, they don't show their identity, and they sit in the background marking away with a keyboard. You're going to get that if you stand up for the truth. You're going to get attacked. You're going to be thrown to the lions, figuratively or literally, at some point. Get used to it. Or get out of the kitchen. This is Pacific Ocean Asia. You heard it here.